Hello and welcome to another build day of Project Blunicorn. My name is Humble, and to catch you up, we've got a little bit of work to go on the car yet, but we also got a ton of parts in from the factory that we were waiting on. And we got some parts from Fuel Safe as well. So we have new fuel tanks to go in the car, and these are full-on racing fuel cells with Holley pickups. I'll show you all those here. So right into the thick of it, these are fuel cells that go on either side of the car, right back here behind the luggage box. And the reason I chose not to go with the factory tanks, which are the same shape and size as these guys, is the week my car was delivered. Actually, I think it was 2 weeks before. There was a terrible accident at Sonoma Raceway, which is just 30 miles from here. And an Ultima was rear-ended by a blind-sided Miata, which hit the rear wheel here, forced this whole assembly right into this space here where the fuel tank sits. And the fuel tank is made out of this stuff, this very thin sheet metal aluminum. And immediately the car burst into flames. Both drivers were okay. I think minor injuries. But the Ultima was a total loss, and I think the Miata that hit him was also a total loss. But it really spurred me on to get something better than just the thin sheet metal stock fuel tanks. So that was the imperative behind these. And basically, I've had friends in accidents with fuel safe products. I've used even actually the ATL well cell that's over there on the wall, and I will swear by Fuel Safe and ATL products in accidents to prevent tank bursts, fuel spillage, and egregious fires that you can't put out. Bar none, if you're racing on a track and you have an exposed tank, or even if you don't, you should really invest in a fuel cell for safety reasons. So now we're done with that not so fun stuff. These are really cool because I don't know if you can see. Well, there's a valve in the way, but in these tanks we have the 3 pickups here. This is for a balance tube that runs between the 2 tanks, and then we have a fuel pickup and return here. The inside of these tanks, there is a Holley Hydromat fuel pickup, which is the kind of the weird elongated cross shape, which it'll go long ways across the tank like this and then short ways side to side. And those things work like magic in picking up every little ounce of fuel, and then having one in both tanks ensures that when one goes dry, if they're not balanced, then the other tank can still pick up fuel and still feed the fuel system. So I can't wait to run these in the car. Speaking of fuel system, here is the fuel system that arrived from the factory. So these are all the fuel bits, fuel lines that are still wrapped up, fuel filter and a spare filter, Bosch 044 Motorsport pump, another inline fuel filter. I think these are Aeromotive parts, and then I think this is an Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator there. And then besides those, I also have my uprights. So that is the left side upright there, or sorry, right side, and this is the left side, already kind of put in place on the car because I couldn't help myself. You'll notice that this steering arm for the knuckle is offset away from the steering rack. And what that is that is a Ackerman angle correction. So when you turn the wheels in, the Ackerman angle of the wheels is better, and I believe it also may help with bump steer. So let's see. And the mount for our LS7 throttle controllers here, as well as some more HVAC parts, so we can tidy up the HVAC system. So where we're at now is back here on the side panels, on the side pods rather, the luggage pods. These are all done, drilled, ready to rivet, but we can't put them in the car just yet because they're still uncoated and untreated. So what we need to do is we need to scuff them up, and then we're going to hit them with some of that Spectrum sludge over there in the corner. And once we get 3 coats of that on, it'll be a dead panel just like the floor pan, and we can pop them back in the car and do the final riveting and everything else to get those side pods ready. Something else we need to take care of is we need to verify that our heater tubes can run through this kind of necked off space here and run over into the back in this area. I haven't cut the heater tube. It's right here on the floor. I think you can simply cut it in half. I'll verify that. And then run both lengths down here through the side pod and then back and around in the bulkhead. And then, again, I haven't unwrapped it yet, but this little H pipe is a bypass pipe which goes in both of those lengths back here in the engine bay. And basically that's just a bypass that when you close the valve here in the side pod for the heater, that the coolant can circulate back to the pump. Otherwise it just blows right through the valve and you end up with heat anyway. So that's no good, so we need to make sure that gets installed. So right now the task at hand is getting these luggage pods back off the car, scuffed up, and get our first coating of second skin Spectrum on and let that dry tonight, and then try to get one coating each night until the weekend when they're ready to bolt into place finally. So sit back and relax and I'll get to work. So as much as we'd like to watch paint dry, we still have a lot of work to do on the car. So why not install the spindles, the front spindles, now that I have them, and be a little productive with our time. So that seems like a fair job to do at the moment. So these are our front spindles. This is the hardware. As far as orientation goes, we can move the protective cap. So if you look at the spindle, see if I can show this to you, the top part is a little bit longer than the bottom, and you'll see why once we get this on the car. But on the cap here, it'll be stamped with a left or a right, and that refers to which side of the car it goes on and which handed the hub is. So this is, left side of the car has right hand threads, I think, and then left side or right side of the car has left hand threads. I believe that's how it goes. If not, I can correct this. So what we want to do is we're going to toss this upright onto the lower control arm, get the nut on place, and then we'll bring the upper arm down to meet it. It goes together very simply. If you look at the washer has a step in it, and that step perfectly sits inside the lower arm here. And you'll feel it notch in correctly. And then we'll just screw the lock nut on here. And then we'll bring the lower arm up. And then ditto for the top. Remove the nut. And then likewise, it's got the same step, if you can see that. And again, this time the step will go up to match the recess in the upright. And we put our lock nut up underneath. If I can get that tightened on there. Alright, and that's finger tight for now. So what I need to do is grab the tool for these. I think these are a 6 mil or an 8 mil Allen. And then we'll attach the steering arm to the back of the upright. Alright, so here's a close-up of the side pod. It still looks pretty wet to me. Yeah, that's still really wet if you can see it. It's been 25 minutes since I applied the last coat to this side. It's still very, very wet. I'm going to leave it set for another 20 minutes to see if it's flashed enough that we can lay down another coat. The opposite one here over on this side looks like it's starting to flash in places. So I think if we give it at least another 15-20 minutes, we might be able to lay on a second coat tonight. So I think we'll just wait. Alright, so it's been about 45 minutes since I put the first coat of Spectrum on here with a roller. It's still really wet in some of the thicker areas, but there are more spots where it's flashed and I can get a second layer on. So it'll be kind of a wet layup, but I'm going to try for a second layer and put it on as wet as I can, and then call it a night for this. And it'll be 2 thin layers instead of 1 really thick brushed on layer. Alright, so I'm going to clean up, and I think we're going to call that a night.